Boy, if you need a hype band, you know who to call. Thank you, David. Thank you. And thank you for your vote of confidence. I'm excited to be part of this new executive team. And for those who are not on this new 6-person executive team, but are coming from the United Utah Party and the Forward Party, Adam and Orlando and Laura and Laura Johnson. I want to thank you for all of the work that you have done over the past few years. You're not getting a pass. You are still going to be involved intimately with the executive committee and organization of the new merged party. So don't think you're off the hook, but I do want to thank you for all that you've done. So there are some experiences we have in life that define who we are and who we want to be. There are some I still don't talk about, but some that I have started to share. When I was starting my career as a young lawyer, I started at a firm in New York City a year before 9/11. My office was downtown next to what would become Ground Zero. 9/11 was a clear, beautiful Tuesday morning. It was a primary election day in Manhattan, and I was late to work. I was late to work because at that time, I was still a Republican. And in Manhattan, on the Upper West Side, they did not know what to do with a Republican who walked into her precinct and asked for a Republican ballot. They honestly didn't know where it was. So it took them a little while to find my ballot, and by the time I was done, I was late to work. My phone was ringing endlessly, but I answered it and I couldn't hear what my mother was trying to say to me, so the line was fuzzy. So I just hung up and got on the subway to go downtown to work. My building was downtown and the subway went under the World Trade Center. By the time I hung up and got on the subway, it was around 9 a.m. The subway was stop and start all the way down. We didn't know what was going on. Somebody got on the subway and said a plane had crashed into the World Trade Center. But we didn't know it was a commercial jetliner, and we didn't know that there were two. So we just kept going on our way. By the time I got out of the subway, it was 9:59 a.m., right when the first building fell. It was frantic, panic, mayhem. And then a few minutes later, heavy silence as papers floated through the air. I was in shock, obviously. After running from the dust clouds, I hid in a stranger's car. I was not the only stranger in that car. I stayed there until the second building fell, and then I put on my June shoes, which I had with me, and walked the 5 miles home to the Upper West Side. Shopkeepers stood outside their shops handing out water and looking for other ways to help the other New Yorkers who were walking home. There was no other way to get home that day. And the next week in New York was a New York I will never forget. People came together like never before. There was no honking or shouting or pushing each other aside on the sidewalks. It wasn't just that the city was shut down. It was more than that. There was an active searching for ways to help each other. There was kindness. There were no divisions or us versus them. There were just New Yorkers who had lost so much and other New Yorkers who were looking for ways to help. Fast forward 10 years, I had worked for a few years at the Wall Street law firm. I had had a few kids. I had moved a few states, and I took a few years off, and I was starting back into my law practice with the clerkship with Judge Monroe G. McKay, the Monroe Gunn McKay, on the 10th Circuit Court of Appeals. Now, Judge McKay was a giant in the law. He had been a partner in an Arizona law firm, had been a director in the Peace Corps in Malawi, Africa. He had been there twice. He was a professor at BYU Law School, was nominated to the 10th Circuit Court of Appeals by President Jimmy Carter in 1977. And he worked as a judge until the day he passed away in 2020 at age 91. He was a proud Mormon Democrat, and he was the nephew of President David O. McKay in the LDS Church. And he was a brother of Congressman K. Gunn McKay. I named my son Gunn after the judge. People think I'm making a Second Amendment statement, but I just didn't like the name Monroe, and we already had a McKay in the family. I didn't think about the fact that I can't yell my son's name at an airport or in a park or in public, like if he's falling down or if I need to get his attention. But we work it out. Judge McKay was a genius legal scholar, an avid birder, and a constant storyteller. But what I'll always remember about him as I restarted my legal career was his empathy. He would always say, as he considered his opinions, as he was writing his legal opinions, was, "But for the grace of God, go I." Now, this always made me think, because it didn't fit with what he was doing. This was a judge who was writing opinions about people who had robbed banks or who had run drugs or who had sent child pornography over the internet. And I knew that my judge would or had never done these types of things. And yet in every opinion he wrote, he would always comment to us, "But for the grace of God, go I." And I wondered, what does that phrase mean to him? And to him it meant humility, empathy, and gratitude. Those characteristics colored every opinion he wrote because it's who he was. But for the grace of God, go I. Humility and gratitude is something we don't see much in public life anymore. Certainly not in the political sphere. What might that look like? Humility and gratitude in the political sphere would look like a legislature that listens to constituents, especially, for example, in a year like 2018, when the public passed 5 different propositions. Do you remember what the legislature did to those propositions? They gutted all of them, including gerrymandering. In the case of Amendment D, humility and gratitude would look not lying to Utahns about what the amendment actually did, and maybe even admitting that the ballot language was deceptive. Relating to transparency, humility and gratitude in our politicians might look like protecting citizen grandma rights. In the case of elections, humility and gratitude might look like safeguarding the highly popular vote by mail program. What does humility and gratitude look like for you? And is it important? Would it look like saying you're in the party of rule of law and then ignoring due process and sending individuals to foreign gulags? That is not humility and gratitude. That is extremism, bred from a two-party winner-takes-all system. The governor recently said that politics can sometimes be a blood sport, but our lives cannot be the product of a zero-sum blood sport game. Utahns want 3 separate individual branches of government that respect each other and don't conspire to tear the other down. Utahns want to stop spending money defending unconstitutional laws and losing in court. Utahns want their government to listen to them. This isn't rocket science. This is ethical government. This is good leadership. The most common question I got on the campaign trail last year about the party was, what do you stand for? And this is our challenge. People know, or they think they know, what Republicans stand for. And they know, or they think they know, what Democrats stand for. But they don't think they know what third parties stand for. And that, again, is our challenge. I could explain on the campaign trail that we stand for ethical government, or increased funding for public education, or a free market system with efficient tax system, or responsible environmental stewardship, or protection against discrimination. But mostly, I would explain that we stand for better government. We believe in principles over policies, because good principles, democracy, individual liberties, due process, transparency, and ethical government lead to honest collaboration and good policies. I would rather have principles and no policies than policies and no principles. And now, combined with the Utah Forward Party, we can focus on priorities that Utahns choose to focus on, like water or housing affordability or government transparency. Those are the priorities that Utahns care about. It does no good for Utah for a national party to dictate what we believe in, and then for that national party to then go and abandon all of its alleged beliefs in pursuit of cheap popularity and easy votes.
Yeah.
In New York City after 9/11, it didn't matter that we came from different places or different colors. We had different beliefs, for different religions, and we wanted different things in life. For a beautiful moment, we were just New Yorkers who wanted to help solve a problem for others who were hurting. Humility, empathy, and gratitude. Our new combined party can be this type of force here in Utah. There are real problems Utahns are facing, but our leaders aren't listening because they're too busy trying to win their partisan blood sport. The two-party system has not served us well. It was never supposed to be just two parties. We cannot see beyond the us versus them mentality. So it's time to move beyond that psyche and look to do what's best for Utah. It's time to listen to Utahns and support leaders who listen to Utahns and demand leaders who listen to Utahns. Utahns do not want extremism in Utah politics, and they're disengaging or looking elsewhere from the one party that exists here now. Let's give them a reason to re-engage. Good candidates, positive messages, honest government, and something to believe in. I'm so glad you're here. Join us, volunteer, donate, spread the word, run for office. But most of all, vote. The second most frequent comment I got on the campaign trail was, I love your message. Show me you can win, and then I'll support you. That's backwards, right? It's like 1 + 1 = 2. I needed their support in order to win. And we have to share that message. It has to be the other way around. And together, we can do that and convince others to join us and help spread the word. And I can't wait to get started. Thanks.